Ah, here we are on the DOSBox screen. Welcome back, and we are finishing Deathgate today. Hello, everyone. Let's go. Flash right over to the restore screen. All right, back from stream 4. We're back here. Ooh, okay. Where did we leave off last time? What happened was, last time we started off with the whole dog situation. And luckily, we concluded with the dog situation last time. Um, we escaped from Clytus. We really had a handabout way of dealing with Abarak, which was getting out, finding the secret cave with all of the Telestian people, talking with Balthazar. There was a lot of talking last time. I'm sure that was very boring for a lot of people who aren't really interested in what's going on in terms of the world there. And really just going back and changing the bleakness of Firesea into something that's hopeful, like we could save Abarak, even though it is a world that is not meant to be saved. Because what we did was we fixed the singular Colossus by finding the replica of the section of the rune that was broken and just slotted that back in, and that got fixed, which is fine, I guess. no no real friction that was really happening, especially when we came back to the Nexus and spoke to Czar, and it was just like, okay, everything's fine, everything's cool. So we've made our way now to the final of the 4 worlds, Chalestra. The book 4 world for Serpent Mage. And now we have to really pick up the pace because, yeah, we're going to be finishing this today. We're probably not going to go my usual full stream length because, yeah, we're going to speed run. We're going to speed run 3 books. These are the books that are going to be tossed today. Because what has happened on Chalestra already? Well, we have learned about the magic nullification of the water that just takes away our ability to use magic. We have come across the villain. Although, because it's going so quickly, really not explained very well who Zangdrax is. That black dragon that was pretty much around. Who is now took our body, which I believe he does at one point, and has now gone back to Czar in order to kind of get him moving, because at the end of the beginning of the 5th book, Czar starts moving around the worlds after we've gone through all 4 of them. And he has to go super fast too. And all the while, we have been talking to Sama, and not the other councilman. Which one of these people are supposed to be the people who Czar talked about? Like, who's Tyler in this in this group? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who they are. Like, you make this game specific thing and then actually don't actually follow through with it. Annoying there. What's more annoying is Sama, because of what happens in the 4th book, which I'm not going to toss right now because I'm going to come back to holding this book, because Sama, while Haplo and Sama do talk to one another, there's that other character that I keep mentioning, who I will not actually talk about until after the game is literally done, who is the cause for waking him up, not Haplo. He spends a whole lot of time with Sama, and Sama in the game, this guy, we're already done with. We've already talked with him. We're already done with him. Even though he has a little bit more to play, because he continues going around until the beginning of the sixth book. But no. In the books, he pretty much just like, because he is a thousands of years old, like original Sartan from before the Sundering, he pretty much goes into this corrupted tirade until ultimately he loses his life and loses his life permanently. Um, it's Czar's intention in the fifth book to learn resurrection, learn necromancy. So he spends most of his time in Abarak learning that, so that by the time of the sixth book, when Sama is ultimately captured, brought to Abarak to talk to Czar, it's Czar's intention to kill Sama and bring him back to life so that Sama can serve him. And it's one of, in recent memory, one of the, like, a really good monologue that Czar gives to Sama in his prison cell. And ultimately, Czar does not get his way because somehow, through divine intervention of, well, the other character, Sama dies and his soul completely vanishes and is unable to be resurrected, which Czar loses his mind over. Book 6 is kind of fun whenever Czar is in the picture there, because Czar is a person of control and he has no control over the situations that he's in. Great. Great. Okay. We're also almost done with Telestra. We won't be here for very long. So, you know, all of the other adventures that happen in the water world, and the characters you meet, especially the Mensch that are around, they don't exist. They don't involve anything in that regard. So, goodbye. Ooh, it stood up. Ha! Stood up on end. Yes! I get to throw a couple more bucks as we keep going. So yeah, Sama's done. Where are we left off with? We have a problem of our ship is technically gone, but the steering's still. So we have to figure out how to get this globe to our ship, even though Sama said it's too big, it won't fit through the door. This is a dumb puzzle, but also still uses the mechanics that we've been working with throughout the entire game, so it's kind of alright. Alright. First off, we need this to be a steering stone. So, the way we do that is the way we have the entire pendant from Edmund, who also was supposed to die, but of course doesn't. He doesn't. Most people who are supposed to die in the series don't die in the games. It's great. Alright, let's rune transfer. Put all of the runes onto the globe so it's ready to go. But how do we get it to where it needs to be? We can push the globe. You get behind the globe, push against it with all your might. The stone sphere creaks, then rolls off its stand and bounces down the steps and ends up on the carpet. There, it slows to a stop. Impatient, the councilmen regard your antics with obvious annoyance. They're not gonna, like, move around or anything. I love this, like, we have... I don't know what it is, but it's like, okay, they have the really good sleeves. Except for this guy. He doesn't have good sleeves. It's the color that really just kind of throws it off. Because Sama's are alright because the color is alright. There it is. Now, we have it there. Next thing we do is... Now, I did mention that we could pick up the rug and move it around. So, what if we did the same thing we've done all the way back on Arianis? It's a rug with a picture on it. Let's put the stone in the world of the picture. You trace the familiar. Yep. The scene, a single tree in a lush clearing, is real. The globe, sitting on top of the carpet, simply drops into the scene. It rolls until it hits the tree there, then stops. Oop. Good. Take the rug and call it a carpet, and off we go. Any last words, Sama?
Hello again, patron. How can I help you?
Nope.
I don't have time for talk. Now's the time for action.
Very well. If I can be of any further assistance, do not hesitate to ask.
We don't even get a good exploration. Unfortunately, this is the piece of the limitations of the game. We don't get a good exploration of the the Sartan city, because the fourth book does end kind of in a relaxed way. It ends with Haplo being held prisoner in the Sartan city by Sama. Other characters get exiled away, and you don't see them again until the sixth book. They're absent from the fifth. And it pretty much just ends with Haplo kind of looking around, and he's given luxury. He's given he's pretty much just held up in a really nice bedroom, kind of at the top of one of the towers. So Haplo's just there. He's just chilling on the bed. Kind of going well, all the commotion that's happening, because the commotion that's happening is the Sartan are fighting Zangdrax and the other monsters that are also Zangdrax, and the magic nullification water is slowly rising and flooding the city. So Haplo goes, well, I don't have to do anything in order to get out of this place. So by the beginning, that first chapter of the fifth book, the water gets pretty much drowns nearly the entire city, including ultimately getting to his room, where the water just starts to seep in underneath the door, which begins breaking down the Sartan magic barrier that's keeping him in there. So he's just watching the door and going well, I'll be out of here soon. It's a little anticlimactic, but also amusing that it's just like that. Okay. No. We have that. So we need to do a couple things first. We have this cave here that we haven't done anything with. And it's also at this point in the game where you are able to freely go back and forth between at least Chalestra and the next place that we're going to. We can't go back to the other three worlds. There's no point. But between Chalestra and the next world, you're able to go back and forth because you need some items. If you were to enter the cave, that fear cloud shows up again. So, weirdly, an extra step here, we have that water. We need to turn it into the magic nullification water. It isn't naturally that way, even though in the books it is. The spell surrounds the bottle of water. After a few seconds, it has done its work. Although the water looks the same, you know that it has the magic nullifying effects that you experienced earlier. So now, we drink some of the water. Your magic power drains away, making you feel as helpless as a newborn. This also means that foreign magic cannot affect you. So now we should be able to enter the cave. No doubt that Zangdrax calls this cave home. Blood streaks the walls. The floor is littered with the remains of previous metals. In the fourth book, Zangdrax and what they're called the dragon snakes in the books, which is the amount of times they use the word dragon snake in there, it gets a little bit tedious in order to read. Um, but the dragon snakes kind of hold sway over Chalestra because the Sartan are sleeping. So where the Mensch come in is every so often they have to send off a sacrifice to the dragon snakes in order to appease them. So they would come to this place and pretty much get the remains are of all races. It appears that the dragon doesn't discriminate. Oh, I have to. Alright, that's fine. So, there's some scales. Because the other thing that we had and got tossed away by Zangdrax is that stone that Zifnab gave us. The one that senses evil. And we kind of need it again because Zifnab, again, told us to crush it when it was most necessary, and we have not done that yet. The game also tells you the difference between stalactites and stalagmites. So, we got the scales. So if we head back to here, sometimes can be difficult to see, but there's the rock pile over there. That's where the stone got chucked. It looks like every other rock in the pile. Finding it is going to be an impossible chore. Not unless you put the scales in the rock pile. You spread the dragon scales over the pile of rocks. As you hoped, Zifnab's rock reacts to the magic in the scales by glowing. Now the rock is very visible, easily distinguishable from the other stones in the pile. Here you are, you little bugger. You could crush it right now, but that's not good if you do it. So there's the glowing stone. Now, the rug. I believe I do have to set the rug down. But I think I could actually do that where it needs to be. So we head back to the ship that is no longer ours. It's Sama's ship. So at least they ultimately got that part right. By the 4th book, you don't have your ship anymore. So the rug. There's the beam up here, which we can put up there. Makes for a nice decoration. And because I did not do this earlier, gotta put the reality pocket back in. You trace the familiar spell into the air. When it takes effect, it loud. And we have to go into the rug to roll the stone out. There we go. A lone tree stands in a lush field. In front of it, you see the portal. Can I climb the mountains? We're too far away to climb. Too bad. There's a whole other realm back there. New pictures, new music, more dialogues than you could ever hope to read in a lifetime. There are some Easter egg scenes in there, which is nice. Aside from the one lone tree in the center of the clearing, the other trees act as a circular wall, keeping you inside. They're beautiful, but a little frustrating. I believe this scene, and I might be charitable, is a scene that they actually took from book 2. Because there is a scene where, I think we were talking about the dwarves, and there was a story about that where the dwarves were coming out of the clearing of the forest to a clearing with a single tree in it. They might be taking from that. But again, charitable. Let's push it. Gather your strength and heave the boulder-like globe towards the portal. It rolls without much problem. In fact, as soon as the globe is partway through it, gravity from on the other side grabs the sphere from your hands. Convenient that way. Notice we're getting so many more points now. 1,120 so far. I don't think you can ever get trapped in here. Look at the other way. Okay. Back through the portal, which has now has the navigational stone. And I just want to double check. So there's the stone. We have the robe. We have all of this other junk. Oh boy. And our inventory gets surprisingly cluttered. I pretty much read all the books. Especially when a bunch of them are called book. Still have that salve that we haven't used in quite a while. Cloth, the necromancy book. We have the 4 rune bones that we haven't used yet. Nope, I think we're good. That's the end of Telestra. we're done here. And we won't be back. Now we can use it. And we do need to return to the Nexus first. Still, unfortunately, we're not able to see the transition animation of the ship going through Death's Gate, but it's not crucial compared to another scene that I did have to dig up, which will come soon enough. Now that we've been to all 4 worlds, you can see over in the distance, the final gate is open. So that's our next destination. We have to go into the labyrinth. But Czar's gone. We can finally take his history book. This book is going to be crucial for the final puzzle of the game. Eons ago, the vortex was discovered. It was a place outside reality as we know it. In fact, it appeared to be a reality unto itself. It was a place of great power. Researchers theorized that it might be the actual source of magic. It remains a place of mystery. As much as is known about it, much more escapes us. It was the perfect place to actualize the plan. In order to defeat the enemy and create the new worlds that Sema visualized, we had to sunder the world into 5 realms: air, fire, stone, water, and the labyrinth. 4 to give to the bench, and 1 to imprison the patrons. Not only would we be removed from the earth while this happened, we would be able to draw upon the perfect magic of the vortex to make it happen. We needed an instrument to focus the magic of the vortex, so we created an island of stone that floated over its very heart. Upon it, we inscribed a rune structure unlike any other. Indeed, this was a spell, but not just a spell, it was many spells intertwined into one structure. Every spell has a starting rune. When a wizard traces a spell, the magic flows from the starting rune into the other runes. Upon completion, the spell is defined and it is cast. This rune structure is different. It combines many different possible starting runes. When magic is introduced upon one of these runes, the spell is defined, cast. A really roundabout way of saying that. There is a compelling reason for this. Along with being used to sunder the world, the island was designed to serve additional functions. Shortly after the sundering, the same rune structure created a conduit between the worlds. It is currently used to transport people and cargo from realm to realm. Using the Death Gate, we were able to populate the realms with the mensch we had selected. All that was required was a fleet of ships outfitted with steering stones, containing the naming rune of the target realms. The Death Gate has a grander purpose though. When the mensch have settled, and we reawaken, the rune structure will be used again to interconnect the worlds. Power and materials will freely flow from realm to realm, depending on need. After this interconnection, various spells can regulate and modify the system. We have included all of these in the rune structure. We have also included a failsafe spell. Should something go drastically wrong with the sundering, the spell exists to reform the single world from the 5 realms. We don't anticipate actually using this spell, but it exists just in case. When they talk about the vortex, the 6th book, Into the Labyrinth, is where the gang, the characters actually spend a little bit of time in the vortex, because what the game is doing is actually taking what's known as the seventh gate and turning it into the vortex. So it does both jobs. I mentioned at the beginning of this that instead of there being 5 realms, the Nexus and the 4 worlds, like the next seal piece and whatnot, there's actually 7. Because there's the 4 worlds, there's the Nexus, there is the Labyrinth. Well, actually, the Nexus is part of the Labyrinth technically. It's not its own world. But there's the Labyrinth and the Nexus. Then there is the Vortex. And then finally the 7th Gate, which is the big mystery place that everybody's searching for by the end of it. Zar is searching for the 7th Gate. Clytus is searching for the 7th Gate, even though he is dead and is Lazar. And Haplo knows where it is, even though he kind of connected to it by accident all the way back in the 3rd book, because the access to the 7th Gate is in Abrak by way of the Chamber of the Dam, as it's called in Abrak. But here it doesn't exist, unfortunately. The huge the huge piece that leads to the climax of the series, just not in the game. Alright. The activation of a spell from the island's rune structure is relatively simple, but the execution of the spell must be exact. The island has been keyed to work only in the presence of the World Seal, or in the current case, all 5 of the pieces. The island is home to 4 spires which encircle the rune structure, 1 to represent each of the elements. To awaken the island's magic, each seal piece must be placed upon its respective column. The procedure has an interesting side effect. Whenever a seal piece is placed upon its counterpart column, it generates an elemental storm. Everything on the island will be bathed in that element. Tornado force winds, a firestorm, an avalanche of rock, or a deluge of water. We couldn't comfortably cast our spells while being attacked by the elements, so we placed the rune structure inside a warded circle. Everything inside of the circle is completely safe. While safely ensconced within the ward, even the storming elements become no more than a spectacle to observe. When all 4 pieces have been placed, the island is primed. It is ready to cast whatever spell the operator wishes. The choice is made using the focus, which resembles a floating hexagonal frame. It must be placed over the desired starting rune, after which the remaining seal piece, that of the Nexus, is set inside of the focus. This will ignite and cast the selected spell. I will point out, though, that when it comes to the seal pieces, we have 4 of them. Or actually, we don't have 4 of them. We have none of them. But we were supposed to go in and get Chalestra's seal piece, and that failed. Zangdrax has it. So, kind of screwed unless we can get any of those seal pieces back. 6 men were dedicated to creating and intermingling the spells carried by the island. They are Sama, Dimitri, Orsif, Lornoy, Tyler, and Waelith. Indisputably, 6 of the greatest contemporary Sartan magicians. Each was tasked with producing a single spell, and we will discuss each individually. Now, this is all game stuff, and also just as fluff. They really don't, because we're done with the Sartan and Chalestra, that's where these 6 guys are, and we're done with them. This doesn't get anywhere. We don't need to have these people, we don't have to have these characters connected with the final spell here. And this is what Zar was talking about, was just okay, it's all damage, so here's Sama. But we do get enough information for what's going on here. So, whatever's highlighted in terms of the spell inside of here, that is their starting rune. So you just have to remember which one of the 6, you have the 6, and they were all connected with something. So you have to remember, okay, what were they connected to? So Dimitri's is up here, just kind of to the left of this bit here. Then you have Orsif. So you have Sama, Dimitri, Orsif down here. Lornoi is down here. Tyler's is down here. And Wayless is down here. That's pretty much it. So, yeah, hopefully you took notes as to what they were connected with the 6 when Zar was talking about them. Because, that's going to come up by the end of it. Can I take the last glow lamp? No. Alright. Ready for the labyrinth? Gotta go back in. This is not how we get into the labyrinth in terms of the books there. Just gonna get away from the lightning. Because I think it's a little bit into the 6th book. It doesn't happen at the end of the 5th book. I think at the end of the 5th book is the how should I put this? The climax of the end of Arianas. We're in Drevlin, and we're pretty much at a battle between the dwarves on one end on Drevlin, led by Haplo and Limbeck and the bunch of them, versus Sangdrax on the other hand, who has pretty much control over the elves. And Haplo does kind of get a victory out of it, although at a cost. Haplo able to make a dent in Sangdrax's defenses, able to take out his eye, so he's easier to spot. But, and we'll come into it later, Haplo pretty much gets mortally wounded. And I did talk about this last time when it came to the dog, and what the dog is. Because since Haplo gets mortally wounded at the end of the 5th book, by the time of the 7th book, Haplo technically dies, but is able to come back because of the dog. Which they really don't give enough time for in the game. Labyrinth time. In we go. So, we do have to go through the final gate, which is the opposite of what happens in the 6th book. In the 6th book, the crew enters the labyrinth from the vortex. They get sent to the vortex, come across the characters who got exiled there, and then realize, oh, we're at the start of the labyrinth. That's bad. That's pretty much it. It's like, that's bad. And then have to start making their way through the labyrinth from the beginning. Which had been conquered so long ago that like none of the people actually know like what they're to be expected at the early stages of the labyrinth anymore. All right. We got this situation. We got all these trees. There are places in the labyrinth where the trees are sentient. Those branches are employed as weapons. You recall when you escaped the labyrinth. The choke vines weren't much of a problem then. It was winter, and the season drove the vines into a type of hibernation. They couldn't move in the cold. Now that the weather is warmer, they thrive. Force you to deal with them in order to cross. No way to get there without trudging through the sea with choke vines. So, that gives you a clue as to what kind of magic you're actually needing to use, because if Haplo didn't have to deal with the choke vines because they were cold, we have to make them cold. They're warm now. Before we do that, though, just to avoid coming back and forth, because naturally you have to go back and forth from this screen a lot, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do something with the zinger. We're going to need it later. We're going to toss it in. They snatch it out of the air and carry it off to the nearest spire. Predictably, lightning strikes the spire. So, like, really, this game does a really good job at paying attention to the atmosphere and makes the atmosphere like a practical element. Although people might complain, it's like, okay, this is like the one time that you kind of have to do it. But instead of destroying the Sartan artifact, the energy is totally absorbed by the Zinger. It charges itself with the power of the lightning. It's been a while since the Zinger has been charged, but now we need to get it back. So, on the choke vines, in order to calm them down and put them into hibernation, we have to go all the way back up to the cold spell that we had a long time ago. Come on. Cast cold on the choke vines? There we go. I wonder what I had connected to. I'll have to look back. The cold spell floats over the sea of twisting vines. It expands and drops over the field like a blanket. As it does, you see frost form. The vines begin to move more and more slowly until they are torpid, completely still. Earl Grey, we can take our Zinger back. Now activated. Don't accidentally activate it, otherwise you would have to go through the same loop all over again in order to reactivate it. It's a little bit annoying. But now we can get through and actually head into the trees. Back over the field of choke vines you've recently crossed, you see the last gate of the labyrinth. Once a very welcome sight. A weird line. You stumble out of the brush, only to come face to face with 3 wounded tiger creatures. Fortunately, what you know of the labyrinth tells you that the only thing more dangerous than a tiger creature is a wounded one. They stare at you in surprise, then let out a growl, tense to leap. You don't have time to do much, but run. Look at these. Look at these. Oh, man. Yeah, so there are a bunch. We will see the denizens of the labyrinth for a single bit, really. So they're going to chase after us. Oh, I went the wrong way. Falling you in a fury of teeth and claws, at that moment, everything in the world is sharp and covered in blood. You discover that without an effective plan, a lone patron simply cannot defend against these monsters. Wrong direction. Let's head back to the final run. Because we have to go... And the directions are strange, because, like, okay, the gate is right there, so I should be able to go up. But that's not up. It is north. So that's technically not north I'm facing, it is south. You hear the Tiger Men crashing through the underbrush around you. They're close on your tail. Cross over. They hesitate when they come to the field, but after observing your safe crossing, they charge in after you. When you pause to look back, they're already about halfway across. Now that they see you, they start sprinting. You don't think that you can run any further without them overtaking you. They also do not need to go into the Nexus. So let's trap them. Warm. Nope. Not cold. They're already cold. Heat. I could have just, like, taken off that rune. The frost disappears as the heat spell takes hold. At first, the plants move sluggishly, but as the torpidity subsides, they resume their normal activity. The tiger creatures are caught in the middle of the field when the vines reawaken. Plants warp around their struggling prey and drag them off to separate spires. Wild eyes, the tiger creatures watch lightning strike a spire only a few hundred yards to the west. It then strikes the next closest spire, leads to work its way down the line. In the lightning blast with the 2 closest spires, the stench of cooking tiger meat reaches you, even here. And they're gone. Now they are part of the animal-shaped remains. Now, you think, oh, I can just head back over. No, we have to cast hold on them again so we can get over the fields. A little bit of a roundabout way. Alright, back we go. now this area is now nice and clear. You get a cave, you get a fire pit. Wonder how this has affected the nearby village. There are villages in the labyrinth. So the patrons in the labyrinth kind of split up into two groups. I think they were called squatters. The squatters and the runners. So Haplo's a runner, and the runner's job is to keep going through the labyrinth and eventually make it to the end. A lot of runners, they're usually alone. They don't really go in teams or anything. Except you do receive flashbacks of Haplo's time in the labyrinth. Specifically in Book 2, where during Haplo's time in the labyrinth, he comes across a partner. That's not the dog, of course. Another patron who actually continues through the labyrinth with him for a time. It isn't until book... Yeah, isn't it actually until book 6 that that partner comes back? Does this partner show up in the game? Absolutely not. Not important. Again, another thing that's cut, especially when that partner is actually surprisingly important and also gives Haplo renewed motivation in order to continue. Because at that point, he's mortally wounded. He kind of wants to, like, just stop. But all of these other things are happening. Okay, skulls. Skulls we can take. The skull of a tiger man. These beasts are frightening enough to confront face to face, but having to stare at one of their skulls is a distinctly unpleasant experience. The skull has sharp fangs, but a small brain pan, which isn't all that surprising. Which skull? We have two skulls. Both we can take. Which do you think is the one that is going to disappear when we take it? Left or right? Place your bets. It's the right. The other one we can just look at. There's the skull. Okay. Got our trees still. That means to place off is this burial cave. I'm trying to remember how much the book really goes into the Tiger Men, because mostly the characters just run away from the Tiger Men at all costs. They don't have time to go, it's like, oh, what's like the backstory of the Tiger Men? Let's talk about them a little bit. There isn't much of that. Half-buried bones stick up from the ground. These are obviously the remains of the Tiger Men. It appears that they are just sophisticated enough to bury their dead. It must have been a tough decision for them. Respect their fallen comrades. Or lunchtime. So, here's a bone. We need this bone. Pay attention to its shape. It's a bowed bone of a Tiger Man's upper leg. Stalagmites and stalactites, and then we also have this cave painting. The crude cave painting depicts a dark god of the tiger creatures, presumably Death, chasing after its tiny feline followers, shooting bolts of lightning. It is clothed in a black robe, which only shows a skull-like head. An interesting insight into the Tiger Man religion. This is specifically made for the game because, pay attention to what is being shown in this cave painting, because it's a puzzle solution. Alright. That's all we need to do in the cave. So, yeah, and this is where the game kind of just like gives up in terms of like, oh, you can go to a different screen when clicking on the map there. Now you gotta use the directional bits. You stand on the outskirts of the village in the throes of battle. A pack of Tiger Men circle a group of patrons huddled under a magic shield. There's the Tiger Men. shelters in the back. All right. So, right now they're paying no attention to us whatsoever. So we can actually go and create what we need to do in order to get past this point. Because if we were to just kind of step in, well, I'm going to say, nope, we can't do that. This one is surprisingly forgiving compared to the Tigerman that chased after us. Because it gives us a moment to go, okay, what do we need to do here in order to get the Tigerman to get out of here? Well, remember that death deity we just saw? We gotta make that death deity. So, hey, the skull. We still have the black robe. From the front, looks good. So what if we put the skull on the robe? You slip the robe over the Tigerman's skull, then reach your arm through it, your hand manipulating the jawbone. You do a quick ventriloquist act, including some hilarious one-liners about how many tiger creatures does it take to screw in a glow lamp, but quickly become bored, so you disassemble your creation, but not before noticing its resemblance to the painting Ariel created. See, it's a little bit weird that this order doesn't actually continue the step here, because like that makes sense there. But no, you actually need to do the lightning part first. So put the zinger in the skull, and then put, and we can strip it if we really want to, and then put it in here, and we have a cool little icon. I gotta steal that as a screenshot. Anyway. So when we have that, we have this complicated zinger, which then we can activate to make it look all glowy and weird and make this Tigerman go away. Hopefully. You pull the switch attached to it, the contraption flies out of your hands, twisting and turning in the air, accompanied by a screeching metallic whine. The black robe flops back and forth, and lightning flies from the eyes of the mounted skull. All of the combatants stare up at the apparition. Tiger creatures point and hiss at the flying sideshow, and then scatter in random directions, pure terror in their eyes. When the zinger's power drains, it drops out of sight somewhere in the forest. The shield around the huddled villagers finally falls. Methodically, they begin to scatter through the village, locating and tending to the wounded. One man, seriously injured, lies in front of you. The headman of the village, who valiantly supported the magic shield for so long, approaches the wounded man, summons a healer. A nervous-looking woman rushes over, nearly dropping her package of healing herbs and implements. She surveys the horrible wounds sustained by the fallen patron and gasps. But a stern look from the headman prods her into her routine. She tries to clean and dress the wounds, but they are too severe. Until she is inexperienced, that this case is too much for her. Alright. Ready for the one interaction that we get with people in the labyrinth? Because this is it. We got the headman, we got the healer, who's going to ignore us. We got this tracker who is gravely injured, and the headman.
I never expected you to return. I should kill you for what you've done. If you hadn't driven those tiger creatures off, I would kill you. Why you did that after you led them here in the first place is beyond me. Leave me now. You've done enough damage.
What are you talking about? I didn't leave the creatures here.
Of course you did. Not more than 2 hours ago, you and Lord Czar passed through this village. Unwittingly, we helped you. We gave you current directions towards the center because for some reason that's where you wanted to go. You were very pleasant then. You thanked us and went on your way. Shortly thereafter, you returned alone, leading a charge of the tiger creatures. During the battle, you disappeared. I don't know why I don't gut you right now. We lost more men in the skirmish than we have in a month of fighting. Now this encampment is compromised. We'll have to move as soon as we're able, and we have you to thank for it.
Well, you're welcome.
Can't you recognize sarcasm? Get out of here before I forget my oath of hospitality.
All right, let's actually do this properly this time. Because again, we're not with Czar. Who's with Czar? It's Xangdrax, which is actually correct because Xangdrax does go and meet Czar and does get into his good graces, and Czar follows along.
Are you still here? If you don't leave soon, my patience will come to an end and I'll kill you where you stand. I can't stomach traitors.
You might be wondering what this thing is. Well, I did mention that Haplo got mortally wounded in the books. It's because his heart rune, which is this glowy thing, got damaged. Which is like the connection to his magic and his soul and whatnot. Which other line should I possibly do? I really don't know, and even more.
I don't know what you're talking about, but it doesn't matter. Can I help you with your wounded?
We have a healer. Even if we didn't, I wouldn't let you anywhere near our wounded. Who knows what macabre designs you have on them?
Fine. I do you a favor, and this is the gratitude I get. No wonder everybody hates patrons.
When you stab someone in the back, don't expect gratitude if you remove the knife. The wound remains.
I did it to confuse you. Did it work?
If that was your goal, I admit you have succeeded. Normally, when we want to commit suicide, we single-handedly attack the strongest enemies we can find. Never do we put our brethren at risk. Even if we do return to save them, you confound me.
What are you talking?
Of course you... Shortly...
Okay, now we can get further into this.
That wasn't me. Lord Czar is accompanied by a shape-shifting dragon. I'm on their trail.
A shape-shifting dragon? That's a new one. I wouldn't put it past the labyrinth, though. It's getting more and more devious every day. If this dragon accompanies Lord Czar, then as long as he doesn't realize the true nature of his companion, he is in mortal danger. My resources are meager, but I am willing to help you as I can. What would you have of me?
Is we have to move along with this because we don't get enough time with Xangdrax to kind of notice that whenever he is shapeshifted into a different form, the eyes are different. The eyes don't change. So Haplo can't even say, it's just like, well, check out my eyes here. Do you know the eyes of what this Haplo looked like? You can't even do that.
Tell me how the dragon got the tiger creatures to attack.
It wasn't difficult. Remaining hidden from the dangers of the labyrinth is a daily struggle. The pack of tiger creatures moved into the area not long ago. He paid them a visit, then came straight here. The entire pride followed, snarling for blood. The creatures were delighted to discover the village. They pounced and caught us completely by surprise. Many died in the first few moments. The rest rallied here in the center. We managed to shield ourselves until you arrived. I'm glad you came when you did. I don't know how much longer the magic would have lasted.
Can you tell me where Lord Czar and the dragon went when they left here?
Certainly. They entered the forest to the north, but that information won't help you much. The labyrinth reinvents itself all the time. Paths that Czar and the dragon followed could have vanished, could even be pits or swamps. Only a skilled tracker could find them now.
Is there such a tracker in the village?
Yes, we do have such a man, but he was on guard duty when the beasts attacked. He fought valiantly, but the pack was too large, and he took the brunt of the charge. He was eventually overcome. He is alive, but I fear that his wounds will prove fatal. The healer is with him now, but I don't have much hope.
What dangers can I expect further along in the labyrinth?
I've never traveled backward through the labyrinth. Our goal is to leave here. Even so, though every step toward the final gate presents a challenge, I doubt that the labyrinth would prevent someone from penetrating deeper into it. It's akin to walking toward the center of a spider's web. When you finally arrive, you'll have a devil of a time getting back out. You'd be doing the labyrinth's job for it. Any obstacles you encounter are not likely to have been placed there by the labyrinth. More likely, you will find traps set by the dragon. It seems to me that the attack of the tiger creatures was such a trap. Obviously, the dragon didn't care whether we defeated them or not. If we managed to defeat them, we would kill you on sight for loosing them upon us. If we didn't, the whole area would be swarming with them. Either way, it would have been rough going for you.
Never mind that. You have to tend to your wounded. In fact, is there anything I can do to help?
Regretfully, no, unless you are more skilled than our current healer. Most of our people are either not seriously harmed or very seriously dead. Only the man on the ground here is in critical condition. Our healer works on him now, but I think she is helpless to do anything. He is fading fast.
Let me think on this. If I come up with anything, I'll ask.
Very well. I must instruct the survivors to begin packing up the village. We can't remain here for long. The scent of so much blood on the wind will draw predators from all parts of the labyrinth. If you think of anything, simply ask.
The labyrinth is, throughout the entire series of books, just a fascinating concept that kind of gets into with, like, okay, it's labyrinth, labyrinth equals maze, maze that is constantly living and changing and adapting to the detriment of the people that are inside it. It's a really great concept. Fortunately, they really don't get into the concept of the labyrinth apart from, like, flashbacks here and there until the 6th book. And by the time of the 6th book, there's much more pressing matters that need to come to in order to get to a climax. So when it comes to the labyrinth and how it took thousands of years in order for people to get out, like Czar, ultimately, and it took generations upon generations of patrons in order to get to each part of the labyrinth, like the stages and the gates that they talk about. By the time of the 6th book, they're really just speed running it. Like I mentioned, that the gangs have to, when they get transported to the vortex is technically the beginning of the labyrinth attached to it. So it's like, okay, now we have to make our way through the labyrinth from the very start. Except that they don't. It's not at the end of this book. It's actually into the 7th book that they pretty much just give up, unfortunately. You get the revelation of, in the labyrinth, I mentioned this before, how it wasn't only patrons who were sent to the labyrinth, but it was also Sartan. So you get to one of the large cities, Agni? I just need a chapter location. Abri. Yeah. Abri. And yeah, it's patrons and Sartans. And they have mixed. It was like, oh, this is interesting. We don't have enough time in order to actually get into it, though, but it's interesting. But then, by the 7th book, they kind of have to speedrun and go, well, we can't go very much past Abri and the climax of the 6th book, so they just fly over the labyrinth. Just like, what are you even doing? It's like, we have to get to the final gate, because that's where all the things are happening. We have to protect the Nexus. Hurry, let's just fly over it. Fly from Abri and the rest of the entire labyrinth, skip it all, get to the final gate. Kind of sucks. Anyway, so if I have any ideas, I'll let you know. Let me just check my pockets, and oh, there was this salve we got. Well, let's give it to the tracker. Because of the severity of the man's wounds, you end up emptying the crock of healing salve over his chest. You can see the gashes close up in the space of a few heartbeats. The healer gasps, but the headman nods. He looks at you with newfound respect. The healer is shocked, but she doesn't let this amazing development slow her down. Quickly, she packs away all of her tools and moves on to help with other injured villagers. In her haste, she drops a cord, presumably used to stitch wounds. Here it is. The headman stays on to direct the healthy patrons in packing up the village. appears that he plans to quit the site soon. Let's pick up that cord.
Yes, my friend. How can I help you?
I'm glad we turned around from you're gonna kill me because someone else was impersonating me to everything's fine.
Let me think.
Very well.
Alright, that's it for the headman. Hi, how you doing?
You healed me, brought me back from the brink of death. I am indebted to you.
It was nothing.
I couldn't do much for your wardrobe, though.
Clothes are clothes. I think my next jacket will be made out of tiger skin.
It was nothing.
It was everything. I'm in your debt. I don't like being in someone's debt. Tell me how I can repay you.
You can't. Goodbye.
I guess I could teach your healers a thing or two.
They do what they can. I thought that no one could heal the wounds I had taken. You surprised me.
I hear you're a pretty good tracker.
I know the labyrinth. I know its signs. I can sense how it changes, sometimes even how it will change. If I find the start of a trail, I will never lose my way.
Do you think you could help me?
Of course. I'm in your debt. Tell me what I must do to absolve myself of it.
Can you teach me to track?
To teach you everything I know would take years. Neither of us have that kind of time. We could be dead tomorrow. There must be something else I can do for you.
God, I just want someone to teach me something. Aw.
I'm on the trail of Lord Czar and his companion, who happens to be a shape-shifting dragon. Do you think you can find them?
Of course. That's what I do. I will accompany you while I track them. When I'm certain that we've found them, my obligation to you is resolved. I must return to my village.
So we get the tracker. We will not have the tracker for very long. We can head backwards, but not really that important to do so. Yeah, again, this is very linear. For a place called the Labyrinth, extremely linear. It isn't pretty. Everything's so clean. Wonderful.
Yes.
Nothing
Let
else
me-
from the headman. We're done with him. There's no point in going to any of the shelters. Quite crowded with wounded, so you quickly depart. We're going to take one step north. Traveling at a pace you have trouble matching. Discovering small clues you would have never found. The tracker leads you through the dark wood. Eventually, you come across a huge cave. A monster which resembles a huge insect, though much more formidable, stands guard outside.
The trail leads here into that cave. I've seen this cave before. There is no exit. Your quarry lies inside. The creature guarding the entrance is a Cheodan. I've only encountered their like once or twice before, and I can tell you this. If you spill its blood, every drop will grow into a duplicate of the monster. Only by killing it before it bleeds, usually with a precise thrust through its heart, can you keep it from regenerating. A sloppy attack, and you'll have an army of these things to contend with. Usually the best way to deal with this type of beast is to avoid it. I don't think you've got that luxury, though. If you're going into that cave, you'll have to go through the Cheodan. My obligation to you is over. I've led you to the end of the trail. The people of my village need my help, so I must return. Good luck.
Must go back to my planet. Tracker bolts into the wood. Between one moment and the next, you've lost all trace of him. You're now alone, save for the delightful company of the Cheodan, of course. Like, I can get Chalestra, but they just kind of continue with the CH there because, like, it's chaos without the S. So shouldn't it be a Cheodan? And that's what it looks like. I was thinking more of a man bug when I was reading it. The mountain rises from the forest here. A cave leads into it. Just outside, a terrifying monster stands guard. It's a good concept for a very dangerous creature that you screw up fighting it, you're pretty much dead. So, fighting it without any thought. Element Surprise gives you one clean swipe with the rusty garden shear. That's our only weapon still. You managed to slice off one of the monster's pincers. Jaden screeches and fountains a green ichor-like blood. Fountains a green ichor-like blood from the wound. As each drop strikes the ground, a new Theoden magically forms, with bloodlust in its compound eyes. Soon you are surrounded by an army of giant insects. Even a rusty shear can't fend them off. But don't do that. Instead of fighting one, you're fighting 8 to 30 of them. Not a good idea. Also, glowing stone. We don't need a tracker. We have a stone. So, we need to figure out how to strike at its heart before it bleeds. They kind of just pass over this when they fight a whole bunch of Theoden in the 6th book. They make the fight a lot like this is supposed to be a strategic fight, but it doesn't come off like that. Well, anyway. What do we got in here that we clearly haven't used yet other than the shear? Well, we got that arrow. That just has magic. We have nothing to shoot the arrow with. We kind of do, though. The shape of the bone. Dried tendon. Used as a thick thread for sewing leathers together. It is somewhat elastic. We got a bow. We got a bow if this is happening. However primitive. So here's the weird thing. This is combining items, which really hasn't come up too much. So you naturally think, okay, I'm gonna put the bow on the arrow, or put the arrow on the bow. You slide the arrow along the bow to check for compatibility and find that it's just about the right size. The bow is very primitive, and you don't think it can provide much accuracy, but at least can propel the arrow with some force. Satisfied you replace both in your inventory. So it's not enough to just combine everything together and then you have one item. Now that you have the bow in your inventory, now the shoot option works. With amazing accuracy, far more than you would have expected. You loose the arrow at the monster. The arrow penetrates through its heart, and the beast falls dead before a drop of its blood can fall. Unfortunately, the arrow has buried itself so deeply into the creature, can't be retrieved. And there's that green blood that they were describing there. It's just red. That's also a fun thing about some of the fights with Jaden, is that when they do succeed in killing one of them, they kind of just hold on to whatever weapon actually killed it. It's okay, you can't use it again in order to take care of anything else. It's a trade-off. Yeah, you can't pull it free. Even though it's theoretically no longer dangerous, you give it a wide berth anyway. Attack it! Stupid bug! Alright. 15 trees. Now we have the cave. This cave also has the same problem. So, you could be all the way up until this point and not have what you need in order to continue on, which is the nullification water. And if you don't have the nullification water, you actually don't have scales in order to get the rock in order to do this part. So this would mean, okay, you get to this point and then you have to backtrack all the way to Chalestra in order to finish that off. Luckily though, we still have the bottle, which does still have the liquid in it. We didn't have to like refill it, which is nice. Let's drink some more water. Because, yeah, we kind of need in order to get into this cave. Not great, but kind of forced to. Hi. The music doesn't really help with this. Also, I will say with how Sangtrax in his form is supposed to be described, it's not accurate. Like Dragon Snake is what's supposed to be put out there, but they just kind of went with the dragon design. In the midst of them, Sangtrax waits patiently for you. Just not yet.
I've been expecting you, patron. I knew that the obstacles I placed would do no more than delay you, but they gave me enough time to find the portal to the vortex. Czar is there now, waiting for me. As soon as I take care of you, I'll return to complete my task.
Looks like a distorted reflection of Zifnab's dragon. Darker, leaner, eyes are glowing embers, but the rest of his body is a mere black silhouette on the cavern wall. So you could just kind of keep going with Sangtrax if you really want to.
I can't imagine why you've persisted in following me. After I spared your life, you should have cowered in the nearest corner, praying that you would never see me again. Instead, you continue to race towards your doom. Well, it would be rude to disappoint you.
Alright.
I sense that you have nulled your magic power. An unwise move, patron. You are helpless against me. Prepare yourself. This time, you have no dog to save your soul.
And with the trusty rusty shear, we can just do nothing. And yet, we're still alive. The shadow envelops you. You find that it conceals the razor-sharp claws and teeth of the dragon. It only takes a few moments for Sangtrax to fillet you. Alright. So, seeing as we have no way in order to actually fight against him, in order to get to this point, what's left to do? Crush the stone. Press on the stone, and it collapses in the palm of your hand like a wad of paper. The green glow explodes around you, blinding you. When the spinning colors fade, you see that, somehow, the stone has summoned Zifnab mounted on top of his dragon. You're so stunned by the sight that you drop the bottle you carried to the cave floor where it shatters. No more water. Sangtrax hisses with anger and disbelief. His fury takes control, and lightning quick, he lashes out at the pair. He tries to bury his fangs into the neck of the new dragon to inject his deadly venom into his body. But Zifnab's dragon is too fast. He breaks a claw against Sangtrax's face and forces him back into the cave wall. The impact shakes the cave and stuns Sangtrax. Good Dragon takes the opportunity to place Zifnab out of harm's way. Sangtrax springs up and pounces while the other dragon's back is turned. His back claws rip through the thin membrane covering the Good Dragon's wings. When the Good Dragon finally forces Sangtrax away, he is left with strips of loose flesh hanging from his bones that once supported his glorious wings. He retreats from Sangtrax, dragging his wings and leaving a trail of blood behind him. Sangtrax laughs and positions himself for the death blow. Sangtrax leaps, but Zifnab's dragon dives beneath the attack, less wounded than he appeared to be. He sinks his teeth into Sangtrax's exposed underbelly and tears a sizable chunk of flesh from his chest. Sangtrax screams and races away from the fight toward the back of the cave. He sinks into the darkness until all you see are two red, glowing eyes.
You haven't beaten me. When I've led Czar to the vortex, he'll reform the world and this place will be no more. I don't think he'll survive. But if somehow you do, we'll meet again, and then I'll have my revenge.
Red eyes wink out, and Sangtrax is gone. Wrong use of lead in that regard. Should just be an LED. Hi. So, this is the game's attempt at doing the confrontation between the butler, the gentleman in black, and Zangdrax that happens in the 6th book. Except it doesn't happen in the labyrinth. It happens on Prion. I don't remember why Zar... Oh, right, Zar, yeah. After the necromancy, Zar decides to go to Prion in order to enlist the control of the Titans in order to bolster its forces, which also doesn't work. And Zangdrax is also there because they're working together. And then Zipnab and Dragon, the gentleman in black, show up. They immediately get into a tussle there, which leads to a very, I find a very funny scene. Because the two of them are fighting. Zipnab's off to the side, Zar's off to the other side. They have no control over the conflict. And then, in the midst of it all, the two dragons disappear. Now, Zar has tremendous magical ability and usually is able to figure out what people are doing from other worlds. Not able to do this when the two of them disappear. Like they go to completely different universe in order to continue fighting. So Zar's lost control, and Zar does not like losing control, and that's what the entire 6th book and his involvement in the book's all about, losing control over everything. And the funny part is the entire fight between the two of them is off text, off screen, until our Zipnab's dragon comes back, and he comes back in his human gentleman in black form, drenched in blood. But still with the sophisticated composure, he's just checking the suit that he's wearing and just working with his cuffs, even though he's dripping with blood. He's going "Sorry, master, I lost him." And then there's a back and forth between Zipnab and the dragon there as they're talking, and Zar is just off at a distance, staring in disbelief, going, "What is happening?" Gobsmacked Zar is over that bit. The scene is great. Absolutely wonderful. Because of every little bit of emotion that's happening there. Serious attack, serious fight, coming back, not taking it seriously. Zar wants to take it seriously because going, what the is going on? Marred by horrible red wounds along his back. His eyes are half-lidded, not to sleep this time, but in pain. The dragon laughs. He goes through so many injuries there, but this one he has to kind of go I am too injured. Again, I mentioned that scene, he's dripping and coated with blood, but then he continues on to be on the cover of the 7th book, going he helps transport everybody everywhere. He's fine. Get up. Embodiment of good. The dragon isn't very talkative. Zipnab communicates enough for both of them. Curious character, this Zipnab. Same description as it wasn't really on Prion.
And I was just getting into the shower. You call it the most inopportune time, Taplow. You've a knack for getting into trouble, my boy, and this is a doozy. My. Face to face with the embodiment of evil. You've had a full day. And look what happened to my dragon. I'm afraid this is going to have to come out of your security deposit.
Just finger wagging. Oh, you've been a naughty boy, Half-Blow.
That's all the rock did? Summon you here?
What did you expect it to do? Wasn't that enough? I think that I did a mite better than you would have in this fight. Well, I did have a little help. Nonetheless, we saved your bacon, and I think we deserve a little gratitude.
Now, I don't know, I'm thinking about this right now. that random stone. Mm, no, I don't think the stone was in the books there, because Sifnab does travel throughout the world, through the worlds as well. At least from Brian to the Nexus, because Haplo and Sifnab do have a conversation in the Nexus, of all places, in the 5th book. I'm trying to think about. No, I think Sifnab was just following Zara around. That's why he was in Prion again.
My thanks, Zifnab. I appreciate your help.
Of course you do. It's always nice to have the side of good rescue you from certain death. Every time it happens to me, I get goosebumps. There's nothing better, I tell you. Except maybe a really good pastrami sandwich with extra mayo.
Good for you.
I could have taken that dragon.
Well, you may get your chance. Remember, Sangrax is still on the loose, and my dragon doesn't look like he'd survive another direct confrontation. It may be up to you after all. I'm glad you have so much confidence. I'd be willing to take odds if you'd like to wager on your success. I'll give you, well, let's see, 300 to 1. Sound fair?
Is your dragon all right?
He doesn't look good. Sangrax did quite a job on his wings. He got his comeuppance, though. Did you see those wounds on his face and chest? Those will smart for a few hundred years, mark my words. He won't even be able to change form to heal them. When you get wounds like that, they stay for dinner.
Where did the evil dragon go?
He slipped out the portal. You see, thousands of years ago, Sama hid the magic portal to the vortex in the labyrinth, here in this cave to be exact. He figured that it would be the safest place to do so. No one would come back into the labyrinth to find it.
Convenient, that.
The portal leads directly to the outskirts of the vortex. We must assume that Sangrax has already escorted Zar there. In fact, they'll probably go directly to the floating island. Very soon, Zar will begin the Reformation, unless we stop him.
Why did you let Sangrax escape?
I didn't see you there slugging it out with Sangrax. I think my dragon did an admirable job in driving him off. Sangrax is weak and desperate. He'll be much more likely to make a mistake now.
What do we do now?
Well, that's simple. We go after him. We have to stop him before he leads Zar to the center of the vortex. They have all of the seal pieces which you were so kind as to supply, so nothing stands in the way of the Reformation. Whenever you're ready, I'll take us through the portal to the vortex.
Nothing else to do. I don't think you can even put yourself in a losing situation because you have to have everything in order to get to this point.
All right, I'm ready to go. Take us through, Zifnab.
Very well. Climb up on my dragon and I'll take us all through. My dragon is wounded, Mr. Insensitive. Why don't you get rid of some of that heavy junk that you've been toting around? It'll make the trip that much easier for him.
With a shrug, you go through your belongings, toss aside everything that appears useless. After you're done, Sifnab doesn't say anything more about it, so you guess that you've offloaded enough. You and Sifnab mount the wounded dragon. Sifnab traces a complex spell, which grows into a glowing hoop in space, large enough even to accommodate the dragon. Painfully, the dragon steps through, and a thunderclap later, you arrive at the edge of the vortex. Oh, yeah. I don't know what happened to his coloring there, but he doesn't look good.
An impressive sight, don't you think? Hasn't changed a whit since the old days. Actually, after the initial shock of being in another reality wears off, it's kind of boring. There's that horizon that goes on forever and the sinkhole, that's pretty much it. No continents, no convenience stores, nothing.
Where are Zar and Sangrax?
Isn't it obvious? They're on the island floating over the sinkhole. Even now they are preparing for the Reformation. It shouldn't be long until they start the process.
You were here before? Does that mean you were on the original council?
I never said that. I think Sama sent me a picture postcard that said, "My esteemed leader went to the vortex and all I got was this lousy postcard." The picture was really nice, though. It really did this place justice. It must have had, 256 colors.
Well, what are we waiting for? Let's follow them.
It's not that simple. They had all of the seal pieces, so they were able to use the magic platform. That's how the council members transported themselves over in the first place. The world seal, or in this case all of the pieces, are set upon the platform. It automatically takes anyone standing there over to the island. Since we don't have the seal pieces, we can't follow them.
Man, you have to do like more game.
Why can't your dragon just fly us there?
Look at him! His wings were shredded in the fight with Sangrax. He wouldn't even be able to lift off. No, my dragon isn't a way to the island.
What about those stone things that kind of look like paths? They reach almost all the way to the island. Can we follow them?
Very good, Haplo. You're very quick. Those stone things are indeed known as the paths. We Sartan introduced the island to the vortex. When we did so, we flawed the perfect magic that existed here. The reaction rippled through the reality. Other flaws began to appear. They manifested themselves as the paths.
We did things and we made things worse in the vortex.
The paths are made of wild magic, chaotic magic. They are unpredictable. They are even dangerous, but they are the only way to the island left to us. You can use them, but you must be aware of a few things. First, you must travel alone. I cannot go with you. Never has a journey succeeded when there was more than one participant. Second, the wild magic may manifest in other strange ways while you walk the paths. I can't tell you what you might experience. It's different for every traveler. Simply beware and be careful.
What will I do if I get to the island? I don't have a magic stone to defeat Sangrax anymore.
You want me to tell you everything? Maybe you should try thinking on your feet. Well, my guess is that Sangrax has probably taken your form to lead Zar through the Reformation. If you catch up with him, you'll have to convince Zar that you're really you. Then you'll have to convince him not to go through with the Reformation. As for Sangrax, well, he probably won't like you interfering, so he might try to kill you. Don't let that stop you, though. Get in there, Slugger. The whole team's behind you. Way behind you.
I'd better get to work. Time is running out.
That's true. You'd better get going. I wish I had some popcorn. This is going to be some show.
All right. So, the rest of book 6. I didn't stand up. Okay, so book 6 is done. We don't have anything else to put into there. There's so much more to talk about after we're all done here. So here's the platform. Cannot be used because we have nothing.
What did you expect to happen? Without the seal pieces, it doesn't do anything. Unless you were going up there to give a speech. In that case, proceed.
So, apart from the weird what the game decides to have as, well, these are still important. Because in this inventory, you want to know how many things are actually still important? One thing. There's one important item in this inventory. But they had to put some clutter in there so it's not particularly obvious. Paths. Floating island in the distance. I think you could just make out 2 figures walking on its surface. Here we go. We're on one of the magic paths. A stone arch looms ahead. Beyond it stands someone who looks exactly like you. Even gets to show our heart rune right there. Stand on one side and he on the other. Your double stares closely, arch. As you try to pass through the arch, your double does the same thing. You end up bumping into each other. No one gets anywhere. So this is not Zangrax. Even though it would kind of make sense for him to kind of be here, and then we kind of have to do like a thing, but he also has to be up where Zar is. Simply repeats everything you say at the same time you say it. Actually, it's pretty annoying. So, how do we get past ourselves? We got some magic that we have to use with them. Out of all the spells that we have picked up here, I said that we picked up one last time that eventually we are going to be using. We just have to get the guy out of our way. So, if we cast self-immolation, and the double does everything that we do, it should work. You trace the rune, as soon as you complete it, the spell races toward your double, but stops and dissolves as it passes through the arch. Something about the arch keeps the magic from reaching him. You cannot directly cast a spell on your double. Your double traces the same spell in the air, but reversed, like a mirror. The spell he tries to cast isn't real, so it doesn't work. And amazingly, we don't die from that, even though we should. But that gives you an idea of what we need to do magic-wise. So, bring out the self-immolation spell again. Now, we have these 4 runes, which, if we were looking at the top here, it's actually this rune, and paying more attention, I'd be able to see what the other ones are. This guy up here, and then this guy, not up here, this guy. We need to make, and this is technically the last puzzle of the game, but they also saved a really good one for last because kind of clever. Mirror flip it. So, if we were to undo, and now we have to do, like, unless you were doing this all the time with the magic system and putting in the runes randomly, this is where it forces you to do it. Not bad, but you just have to get used to it there. And this guy. You were given no indication that anything is correct, but you gotta use pretty much an unmarked rune against it. You cast the nonsense spell into the air. Of course, this spell does nothing, but your double casts the spell's mirror image. This does happen to be a real spell. In fact, the spell that he casts is self-immolation. It dives into his body and burns it to ashes. His clothes and possessions fall to the ground. I want to talk to the remains. You talk to yourself literally since the other you isn't talking back. So we get to search our double's remains, which means that we get duplicates of our entire inventory. We have 2 of everything right now. It's kind of nonsensical that we get that, like, it makes sense, but also at the same time, I mentioned that only 1 thing in our inventory before this point was actually important. So we just have, and the rest was junk. So we just have double the junk. But now we have 2 things in our inventory that are actually important. The shear. We have 2 of them. You knock out the connecting bolt from one of the blades and slap them both together. The result is a complete set of garden shears. Hooray! They're finally made. Rusty, but, you know. Yep, but now it's a set. Well, actually, I'm wrong. We had two. We had two things in our inventory that are actually important. But now we technically have three because we have one unique thing in our inventory, and then we have two. We have cop itself and a copy. The rest is junk at this point. Blah, 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 blah. All right, keep it going. Grayish green, slimy tentacles snake out from somewhere below the path. They twitch, reach out for you. Well, you don't like the tentacles. I would like to cut you, but I'm missing. So if I keep going, though, the tentacle whips out from under the path, wraps it around your leg, and tugs at it. You feel like you might pull away, but if you move forward, you'll enter a whole nest of them. With a quick snip, you cut the tentacle away, but another whips out to wrap around you. With a quick snip, you cut the tentacle away. The ichor-covered stump draws back under the path, along with the remainder of the tentacles. The creature has evidently had enough. Would you believe me if I said, that's it? There's no more trials? It was only two? There's the path, there's the floating island. No new descriptions or anything. Because the next time we go forward, we're here. It wasn't even 3 trials, it was 2. I don't get it. The floating island is suspended over the center of the vortex. A circular platform. In the center is 4 spires along its perimeter. You come upon Lord Zar, standing in the middle center of the island. He holds all of the steel pieces in his hand, closely examining the focus. Off to one side, you see Sangtrax, in your form, waiting patiently. On your arrival, Zar's head snaps up and he regards you in shock and surprise.
What are you? Some kind of phantasm born of the vortex? I can feel the wild magic around us. Are you part of that?
I am no phantasm. I am the true Haplo. Your companion is a dragon who has taken my form to trick you into destroying the world. He has tried his best to keep me from following you here, but here I am. You must stop what you are doing, my lord. The Reformation will not be what you expect. Many will die, including our own race. My lord, it's obvious that this is some trick, some manifestation of the Vortex's wild magic. Why it spouts lies to stop you from claiming your rightful heritage, I don't know. But don't spare it a thought. Continue with the ritual, and I will deal with my double.
Eyes flash fast as he turns to you with a grin that shows razor-sharp teeth. The scar left by Zifneb's dragon on his face makes him more menacing.
What you say makes sense, my son, but something about this doesn't ring true. Can you prove your words? Are you the real Haplo? Or is this, as my companion claims, just a hollow trick?
It's no trick. I can prove I'm Haplo. Remember our conversation about heart runes? They name us. They give us our magic. They are the center of our beings. If they are torn or broken, we fall ill. We cannot function. I show you mine, unbroken. I challenge my double to do the same. Of course I can show you my heart rune, and why not? After I've done so, I'll eliminate this annoyance so that you can complete the Reformation undisturbed, Lord Zar. I live only to serve you.
With the promise of death in his eyes, he opens his shirt. Only when he has done so does he realize his mistake. The wound taken from Zifneb's dragon slashes across his chest, straight through his heart rune. Not only is the rune broken, but much of it is missing.
So much for subterfuge. I prefer to be direct anyway. My lord, you will complete the Reformation. If you do not, I will kill you. It's your choice.
Very well, Dragon. I will continue the Reformation, but only because it suits my purposes as well.
Excellent. Get on with it then. Ah!
Zar takes a moment to consider. Zar takes a moment to consider his options and carries the fire seal piece to its fire counterpart. Quickly, he slides the piece onto the monolith's face. That very second, the entire island outside of the protective circle where you stand erupts in flame. A storm of fire swirls and batters the ground. Nindrax, on the sun maelstrom, screams in agony. Aww. You quickly lose sight of him behind the curtain of flame.
That should take care of our friend, eh? Tell me what's happening here, Haplo. Quickly, if you don't mind. It seems that I have been misinformed. The Reformation is not what I wished it to be. I must change my plans.
Zar does not do this in the final block. He is too far gone and crazy in order to continue to reconsider his plan once you get to the 7th gate, which is technically this area, and he is going about doing Reformation. It's just like, no! It's like, screw you, Haplo.
We will bring about the interconnection. The worlds cannot survive without it. But the Sartan's strength is severely depleted. It is as nothing compared to ours. After we have connected the realms, we shall invade them, wipe them clean of the Sartan influence, and take our rightful place as rulers.
This is more direct for him. In the book, he really doesn't care. It's like, we're just going to reform them, we're going to kill everybody, whatever.
Attend me, my son. I've placed the focus over the starting rune of the Reformation. While you gather the remaining seal pieces, I have to move it back to the interconnection starting rune. I'm lucky that my research indicated which rune this was. Otherwise, I might not know how to bring it about.
Watts over the focus and the surface of the floor. Here's the floating frame to another room. Suddenly, Nindrax's head bursts from the curtain flame. He is reverted to his original form, that of a fire-breathed dragon, a form completely impervious to the effects of the storm whirling around him. He looses a tongue of fire at Zar's chest. The blast leaves nothing but a black hole. Zar slumps to the ground, dead. This is kind of how Zar dies at the end.
Now it's your turn, patron. Unless you decide to be more cooperative than your master.
Alright. So, the things to look at, including his silly face. We do have options of what we want to look at there. So we have, since we've already have the fire spire over on the side here, we have air, we have earth, we have water, and the next is left. We also have Zar's body, you know, which we can talk to first, but not look at.
Do it now, patron. Put the Nexus seal piece in the focus and have done with it. If you feel any reluctance, look at your lord. He was more powerful, more intelligent, more cunning than you will ever be. And he is dead. You cannot do better than he. You cannot defend against me.
Huh?
I command a magic you cannot comprehend. If you attack me, I will change to a form that is impervious to it. Resign yourself, patron. Do as I ask or die.
But it gives me more turns in order to do stuff. So, yeah, his whole, we're able to see right there. So let's just go about putting another piece on there. Technically, I might as well do it right here. Even. That we can possibly come back to it because he says, yeah, put the Nexus piece on there. It's fine. You can also go
I've lost patience.
down?
Patron.
Don't.
I might have spared your petty little life had you done as I asked. But it's too late. You've sealed your doom. Goodbye, fool.
He hasn't done it yet. Come on. I'm just gonna attack you. There we go. I'm dead. Can we talk to you? No, he ignores us. But he looks as comfortable as if we were taking a bath. Anyway, water seal piece. We're gonna put that onto it. Wash of flame engulfs you and your body collapses. Oops, I put it on the wrong thing. What if I just did what he asked? Nothing happens if you reclaim it. Because we're already kind of in the middle of everything, so yeah. Oh, I put it on the air. What am I doing? Water is over here. Water to water, please. Here we go. Watch as you approach the fire, now with the results. Decides to stop you. You leap forward, press the steel piece into the indentation, crackles and fixes itself to the fire. The firestorm surrounding the piece of circle is replaced by a deluge of water. The dragon chokes back his attack. Chokes back his attack with its atomic purple. Disappears behind sheets of rain. We have a little bit of time here. So we're gonna do a messy thing. Because he was in the middle of putting the focus where it needs to be, and he's the only one with the information. So we kind of have to do this. You cast the intricate spell over the still-born corpse of the Lord. You sense a rushing of air, and suddenly you see our spirits pulled into his body like water down. His eyelids flutter open and he stares directly at you. Although he appears to be aware, there is no life in his eyes, and his face is without expression. This would turn, in the books, Zar into a Lazar. That's the last thing. Somewhere in the driving range, sizzle of the fact that fire being doused. But you also hear a squishing, washing sound that usually accompanies one of his shape changes. Zar kind of looks like his eyes are open.
The heart, the heart, the heart.
You see Xangdrax now deep in the rain, his scarred fire-breathing dragon form, something that looks like a slug. Vertebrate and blackness starts to slide toward the circle behind you. Darky seen phrase over and over as you hold his chest. So this form here of Xangdrax is kind of more accurate to how they're described in the book because they are dragon snakes, but they're more snake-like. And the other thing that they do not care to describe them as is that they're oily. They leave this film wherever they go. Barrels over you, covers you with this slime. Okay, they do. This burns through your skin, but before killing you, the slug absorbs your body through its outer membrane and into its stomach. Keeps you alive a good long time while it digests you. If he wasn't so huge, you might step on him. Okay. We got the heart. But we need to do something else first, so we're going to put this stone. I don't think the order matters. Well, actually, no, it does, because you have to use the water in order to cast fire. For the water, you have to just kind of crack it. Despite its slow speed, it will be on the one changes into rocks and boulders, smash into the worm and stop. Soon, you lose sight of it, behind the curtain of falling earth. Whee! Cool. So, what do we have to do here? So, the clue. The heart. We need to find in our mess of things, we need to find that history book. One of the two history books now. And just flip to the page for the Devil of the Heart. Remember who the Devil of the Heart was? It wasn't Sama, not Dimitri, or Seth. Unfortunately, when some other puzzles are randomized, this one honestly should have been too. But as far as I know, it's not. It's always going to be the heart that ends it off. So, this is the rune that we need to get it to. It's a little bit weird to get it to it as well. Feels like you have to get into the entire rune shape, but not really. Hearing almost rhythmic thumping and squishing of stone and earth, striking the sickeningly soft body of the sea slug. Then it stops. Falling stones strike the ground as if the worm suddenly disappeared. Peer into the curtain of falling earth, smoky tendrils weaving their way in and out of the stone projectiles. Even when one manages to strike the vaporous form, it only dissipates for a moment, and a ghost-like figure forms. A pair of red glowing eyes are the only constant. Float slowly through the earth storm toward the protective circle of scan. There he is. So we gotta get rid of him, and we need to blow away the ghost with the air seal. Technically, where they're getting this idea from is from the literal ghost dragon that's in the 5th book, who, like, he transports some characters who are just not in this game. So it's just like it's a connection. That's all it is. You set the steel piece inside the ear, spires, animation. It crackles, itself there. Rocks stop falling, but gale winds rage around the protective circle. It feels as if we were standing in the eye of a tornado. Ghost dragons caught in this wind. The wind scatters smoky form until it vanishes. Alright. And we get the most boring thing around it. So, you have the focus. Time to move it. When we click on it, we're able to move it across all of its bits here. So, we went over. This is where Samus is. Here's the room that it needs to be put over, which looks slightly different, but it's what it needs to be. So scattered the Ghost Dragon is good. Can't fight a race behind Drax anywhere. Perhaps the storm is finally taking care of him.
The heart.
Nope, there he is. Oh, that was the whole thing that was up there.
The heart. The heart. The heart.
The winds don't even phase him.
Patron, are we done playing this game? I'm weary of it, and you are without ammunition. It's time for you to die.
Let's undo that. So that paragraph of text will be up there for a little bit anyways. Because we need to finish the game. Yeah. That's the end. So here's what we're gonna do. It'll be a little bit. I need to do something completely different. Go off sound. There you go. Because we need to switch over because again, my version of the game doesn't really come with the cinematics with that. Buy me for a moment. And we get to see the ending cinematic.
You're all out of seal pieces, patron.
I've got one more, dragon.
that is literally it. Okay, let's bring back Vega. And what happens after that glorious scene?
When you drop the Nexus seal piece into the focus and ignite the interconnection spell, magic flows through the runes of the island and connects the elemental spires. Sangdrax, unwisely attempting to break through the magic field in order to stop you, confronts the brunt of its power. It proves to be too much, even for the incarnation of evil, and the explosion hurls him into the swirling vortex, hopefully never to be seen again. You've connected the 5 realms. Perhaps now the worlds can function as planned, and their inhabitants can not only survive, but flourish. Yet you ponder one particular unrealized goal of your Lord, namely the release of your people from the labyrinth. With time, and the aid of the Sartan, you may be able to see this dream fulfilled, but that must wait for another day. You've completed Deathgate. You've saved the realms from a fate worse than death. And while doing all of this, you scored 1,500 out of 1,500 points. Congratulations.
Yay! And that's it. We're done. This game pretty much has a climax that is similar to most Weiss and Hickman books if you've ever read a series or a trilogy from them. Of all the things that this pair of authors is able to do very well, very well, they're able to do characters really well. They're able to do world building and traveling around the worlds pretty well. Their climaxes leave a lot to be desired. I still remember reading a long time ago. I was reading the War of Souls trilogy, which is a little bit deeper into the Dragonlance series. And the climax of the War of Souls is just 2 of those characters walking into a cave. And while they're in that cave, by the time they get out of it, the war is over. It's just like, wait, what? It isn't really. Like, even with this series, by the time we have the end of the 7th gate, I will say the climax is a bit of a mess there. It's, again, a bunch of swirling magic. It is really difficult to describe what's going on there between what is happening between the characters, Sangdrax, and everything like that. And, yeah, it doesn't leave much very much, fulfilling feelings. Especially when you have, like, one more chapter after that, which is where all the characters end up immediately afterwards, which is, well, they're kind of just in the labyrinth again. And that's it. So, there's all the characters that are at least in this game, not including characters that I have been dancing around, which they did not include in here, which meant that we had to drastically change how this was adapted. Haplo isn't alone for most of this journey. He has a companion with him that is not just the dog. If you've read the books, you're going, where's Alfred? He's nowhere. Like, they somehow managed to get rid of him, which is an achievement in and of itself. And I love that in the end of the credits, it just completely closes the game. Because that's what happened. Yeah. There's Alfred. There is, and I briefly mentioned, like, okay, he had a companion in the labyrinth, and I threw the book away. It's over there. Marit also isn't in the game. Who is Haplo's girlfriend, bearer of his child. That's the motivation he gets at the at like for book 5, 6, and 7 is that apart from what's happening with Czar and everything, it's like, okay, I have to find out where my child is. And that's kind of why he wants to go back into the labyrinth. Mm, Do we figure it out by the end of Deathgate? No. We don't know where his child is. We don't even know if the child is alive or not. It's so it kind of left it open for something more to happen there. But to be honest, after reading through the series there, I'm glad there isn't more because it would have been like not as good. A continuation didn't need to be made. Of course not. Now, I kind of need a little bit more here. This is probably going to mess up some stuff. So let's see what happens when I do this because it did completely shut things off, unfortunately. And I didn't want that to happen. So let's see what this does. Ah, hopefully this doesn't mess everything up there. Because this could. Absolutely. Yeah, it did mess up my screens here, so I have to fix those. And then I should have maybe does it exist? I don't even know if it exists anymore. I have it again, but apparently it's not showing up. Let's see if I do this. The sound is back. Nope, I gotta flip it over. There we go. I'm just gonna open that up again as a result there. So I could keep going and talking about the series a little bit more, but I would just be rambling a little bit as we see all of these characters, wonderful characters right here, like this character who doesn't really exist in this. It's cool that they did it, and then they just wasted Sama here. Like he's supposed to be kind of menacing there, but they don't do anything with him. It's like this is what I mean. So apart from that, where else does this kind of go to? Like, the overall with this adaptation is, who is this for? And I honestly do not know. As someone who has read the series, I just look at it and go, well, they do a lot of things in order to make it a little bit more accessible for people, but it also leaves so much out in terms of the depth and wealth of the source material. A lot of limitations had to be placed into it, of course, as a result.
Not long the fight.
I'm just gonna flip that there and just have it pop into the Nexus. Yeah. But at the same time, I really don't know if it's for newcomers at all, because there's so much stuff it expects you to get and understand about this. This is not a beginner's guide to Deathgate whatsoever. It's really in the middle, so that it's ultimately for no one. But there's one more piece that I do have to show that makes it fall more into the side of, if this side is for the beginners, for those who have no idea, for the knowledgeable people, because of what came in the big box version. And the big box version had this. It had an additional story as a separate book. Now, it's available as a PDF now. It's actually really easy to find. You just have to look up either Deathgate 1994 story or look up the title Forever Falling Deathgate. Forever Falling is an exclusive story that was presented alongside the video game, which has nothing to do with the game because the character that this story is about only is mentioned once. And that is when you're talking with Hugh in Ariana. It mentions Chang as the arm of the Brotherhood. So this story here, which is a short story, is about Chang. Now, you would not know who Chang is whatsoever unless you were really paying attention to the game there and its one mention of her, or you read the 5th book, because that's where she is. one of the oldest mensch still alive in the series. Forever Falling is a bit of an, I wouldn't say an origin story, but it is a prequel to most things. It's kind of describes what event led to Chang eventually forming the Brotherhood, and how she was kind of exiled and removed from elf civilization, pretty much, to go to Skirvash and set up the Brotherhood and whatnot. It uses a bunch of the terms that you would expect to find in the fifth book, like a Wisham, who is pretty much a servant, and it goes into the elven traditions that are on Arianis. So it talks about the soul boxes, and it talks about the Kinkari, and again, not something that is in this game at all. So this is absolutely for somebody who has read the books. How do I feel about the story overall? It's fine. It's serviceable. Is it impactful in any way? Not really, but it does keep Chang's overall composure as a character, because Chang is a little bit of a cool character for the brief amount of time you actually spend with her. So yeah, like, this is easily available if you want to take a read through it. It's just the event and the location and what happens that leads to Chang's change as a character very early on in life. That's pretty much it. Because I'm certainly not going to read it because it's going to take too long, and yeah, I personally don't want to include it. I prefer for you to read it for yourself if you are absolutely curious in any sort of way. Do I recommend even the books? I would say that books are a tough sell. Especially when they don't know how to even recommend themselves. Because the books sometimes recommend them as, like, it's a series of 7 books, but you could read, and I don't agree with that, but the first 4 books, they argue, could be read on their own without any context, and I don't agree with that. The only one you could do that with is the first book, because obviously. And if you're going to do that, what I would recommend doing is reading the first book, because the first book is really good. Because it's less about Haplo, and it's less about the overarching narrative, and it's more about Hugh's journey. At least the first part of it that leads to that. And then if you really wanted to continue, I would just ignore, and you were not going to read, like, the full series, I would ignore Elven Star, because I already threw it out, like the game did. And I would just move on to Firesea. Because at least when you're reading Firesea, you have an understanding of the returning characters, because they're in the first book. And again, it's a cool world. It is dark and oppressive, but it's great. Overall. It gave me an overall feeling of dread, which I have not read in a book in a while. Overall. After that, like, it's really up to you, because by the time after you read these 2 books, I would say those are the starting ones. It would be up to you to decide, well, if I'm going to read a 3rd book, whether it be the book that I threw out, Serpent Mage, 4th book, or just kind of going with the odd books. Go on to the 5th book, Hand of Chaos. If you're going to do that, after you get into the 3rd book, you're really going to decide if you're going to go back and read the rest of them. Yeah, so either read the first 2, Dragonwing and Firesea, and then stop, because that's totally fine. Or go on to read Hand of Chaos, because that goes back to the location of the first book. You won't be missing too much, apart from, like, the beginning chapters before they actually get back to Arianis. And then you can decide from there if you want to read the other four books. It's up to you. Otherwise, I think that is where we're able to cut and finish for today. That's the end of Deathgate. That is Deathgate 1994. Not a terrible adventure game. Like, the adaptation of 7 books into a single adventure game is a tremendous task. I would not wish that on anybody. But what we have here is perfectly serviceable. What they were able to realize inside of it is something commendable. I just don't know what it does. I don't think it ever had an audience. And the audience that it really got was anybody who read the books. Especially when it came out a year after the books were done. I think the 7th book came out in 1994. This was 94. Oh no, this is 94. Yeah. The cover art is 95. So. So that could presume that this book wasn't completely finished by the time that this game came out. Arguably. Interesting. Well. Alright. So what's next? What's next after this? Well, I've decided to kind of go back to the vote that I did last time and kind of just continue with the other option. Because there was this, which I was glad to go through. And now it's time to get out of the 90s. Because I did Grandia, I did Tale of Eternia, and now I did this. They're all in the 1990s. Well, actually, 2000. 2000 was Eternia. I want to play a game I played last year. That came out last year, 2024. Because it was good. I liked it. Doesn't mean it was good, but I liked it. And it was the adventure game I played last year. So I'm gonna keep that a secret until I actually announce that later this week. Because I am bad at doing this. All right. So that leaves it at that. Hope you enjoyed Deathgate. Hope you enjoyed whatever insights I was able to put into this, because it was a really cool series to read. I do recommend some of those books. They're really good. All right. I'll see you next week. We'll play another adventure game from this century. And I'll see you next time. See you later. Take care, everyone.